Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, a place where backcountry warriors can share their stories of grit, service, healing, and wilderness adventures. I'm your host, Tom Walton, Marine Corps veteran, full-time cop, and aspiring hunting and fishing guide. Join me and others as we journey from the hood to the woods in pursuit of freedom in the outdoors. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast. I feel like it's been a while because we kind of had a backlog of pre-recorded episodes and we're switching to our every other week schedule if you guys didn't catch the bulletin on the social medias. So if I'm a little rusty in my hosting, which I'm probably not the best at anyways, everyone please forgive me. But I'm joined today by Eric Harter, who is the president of the National Wild Turkey Federation Lilac City Longbeers chapter. For those that are listening, the Lilac City refers to the city of Spokane, Washington, on the east side of the state. Eric, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, no, thanks, Tom. The pleasure's mine.
Yeah. So looks like, Eric, you were born in Spokane, primarily raised. I bet you moved to Great Falls as a kid where you kind of had your first interest in hunting, but you didn't really get into it until 2020. Eric's also a husband, married 15 years. Congratulations. Father of 3 boys and 1 girls. Perfect. Started with dreams of only big game hunting, but his oldest wanted to hunt turkeys, so he started to ask around and watch videos and taught himself how to do it. Definitely still learning. Turkeys are now his favorite thing to pursue in the woods, and he spends a lot of his fall chasing elk and deer as well. Overall, though, he is addicted to the fellowship that comes with hunting, and he is in his second year as president of the NWTF Lilac City Longbeers chapter, 5 years as an NWTF member. Eric, I'm going to let you do most of the talking, man. Is there anything else in your bio that you think would be a good highlight or you would like to add?
No, I think that really sums it up. Just getting new to all this, all the NWTF stuff here, but very excited for this opportunity to share with you and just talk about, the journey so far and what's on the horizon.
I'm really excited to have you, man. And it's actually kind of cool because it seems like your interest in turkey hunting was sparked by your kid wanting to go turkey hunting.
Absolutely.
And we just happened to be that John, who unfortunately isn't able to co-host this episode like he has prior Turkey Month episodes, he and I are both doing our annual turkey camp this year. We're doing it next week. We had always kind of done veterans camps and started transitioning to veterans and first responder youth camps last year. We enjoyed doing the youth camp so much that we're doing another one this year. So kind of good timing, man. So yeah, tell us more about maybe your kid and how he sparked your interest in turkey hunting.
Yeah, no. Well, my wife and I like to say I married my best friend. We got 4 kids. We're a bit of a blended family. So she had 2 boys when we met. I had 1 girl, and then we have one boy, our youngest, together. So naturally, her boys, I always wanted to do what they wanted to do. I was kind of trying to win their hearts at the same time while trying to win over the heart of their mom. So they were always interested in doing things. We did Cub Scouts. We did a lot of stuff in the outdoors, camping and things like that. And then our oldest, Avery, he just, all of a sudden one day I caught him on his tablet. He was watching hunting videos. He's like, Dad, I think I want to do this. I think I want to learn how to hunt. And it started out with, these crazy shot kill reels of just shooting, coyotes all the time. And I was like, well, that's fine and all, but my little bit of introduction I had when I was a kid, the mentor that took me when I was a kid in Great Falls to go deer hunting taught me, he only hunted anything that he could harvest, or eat. So I was kind of explained to my boy, like, I don't know that coyote tastes very well, so maybe we should find something that we can actually enjoy. So the next time I caught him, he was watching turkey hunting videos. And to myself, I was thinking, man, like most people do, like those are just those yappy birds that walk up and down the street. What do you mean? Like, what could there possibly be to hunting them was kind of the idea that I had behind it. But naturally, I wanted to do anything I could to spend more time with the boys and get outside. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, when I was a kid, I spent a few years in Great Falls. There was a guy who took me hunting from our church, but I didn't grow up with anybody in the hunting background. Anything I ever did outdoors was kind of just like self-taught, self kind of figuring it out. So in order for my boy to, get into turkey hunting, I felt like I had to figure out everything there was to figure out before I could ever take him out. I figured taking a kid hunting, you got to be pretty dang good at it or you're going to lose their interest. So I just kind of started doing what I think a lot of people do. I started watching YouTube videos, shout out to John, finding someone that was local. I was actually in one of the local restaurants here and saw his sticker hanging on a wall or somewhere and decided to check that out. And, I'll tell you as far as getting my kid involved and then also talking about a favorite hunt, the first time we ever went out, it was a total amateur hour. I had no idea what I was doing call wise, setup wise, trying to locate them first. We went out and camped on a friend's private property that bordered some state land and, got up 4 o'clock in the morning, went out, set up a blind the night before, went out, crawled into the blind. You could hear them gobbling off in the distance. You could hear the hens talking. And I just thought, this is what they do on YouTube. You just sit in a blind and you call, and then they're going to come to you. And so we sat there for hours and hours and hours. And John would probably laugh at me. You or John would probably laugh at me if you could hear some of the calling that I was doing just because I was trying to mimic what you hear. But I was probably scaring more birds away than I was ever calling in just with the noises we were making in the simple little, Sportsman's Warehouse $20 beginner pack of calls and just trying to figure it out. But just sitting there in the cold morning and just whispering in the blind and talking and everything. And it was just so much fun to do that with my boy, but also just I felt like I was failing because I just, to explain how amateur I was to it, on YouTube videos, they talk about drumming and spitting when the turkey's coming in. I had never heard a grouse before in the woods, and I thought the sound, that thumping boop, 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 that a grouse makes when he's mating calls, I thought that was the drumming of a turkey. So there were so many times where I was like, "All right, get your gun up. We're ready. He's coming in." Just like you'd see on YouTube videos. And yeah, I just kept feeling like, when is he gonna come out? Like I keep hearing the sound. When is he gonna step out like they do in the videos? And the funny part of the story is that, like any other turkey hunter, got to be 11:30 noon, and we're thinking, man, back at camp right now, mom and the other kids, they're done with breakfast, getting ready to make lunch. Let's get up out of this blind and walk back and go. My thought was, I'm going right back to go find a YouTube video on what I'm doing wrong. And as we unzipped the blind and stepped out, there was a Jake that neither of us had noticed in the tree line that just started alarm putting at us, just like a hen would, because we spooked him. He was coming to those terrible noises I was making, but you never know. So yeah, I mean, on the fly, was able to just raise up the gun and shoot my first turkey, and he was there with me, and it was just all, his excitement to run across the field and grab that thing and take it back to show mom and his brothers and his sister, the grip and grin photo, all that good stuff. That was really what, kind of got me fired up. Like I mentioned in my bio, I had all these aspirations watching Meat Eater and all kinds of other videos. Like I was gonna be a big game hunter. I was going to go climb the tops of mountains and shoot these big crazy elk and, all these big crazy whitetail like you see on all these videos. And it was just a real good, wake up call to, some people do it right. You can give John credit. He'll show you how much it takes to get in on animals and stuff like that. But most YouTube videos are 36-second clip of just, hey, this is us getting out of the truck, and then here's this big thing we shot. And there's a lot of there's a lot more reality that comes down to it. So being able to share that moment with my oldest stepson, and spark that interest for not only himself but myself, it's you couldn't put a price tag on it. It was
That's
really
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool, man. And, I kind of chuckle at your story just because it's a similar story, I think, to anybody when they start out turkey hunting, right? And, there's not a lot of folks around here that probably grew up doing it just because it's I mean, big game hunting's the thing here. They're not native. They weren't always around. Down south, it's like embedded into the culture, right? Back east and down
Sure.
south. I mean, those kids are growing up turkey hunting and they can all call better than me by the time they're like 5 years old, and they could probably do it with their mouth and no actual call. What resonated with me in your story was just that you talking about being an amateur, and folks that have listened to the podcast know I didn't start hunting until about 2018. So I was, only a couple of years ahead of you. I remember my first time going out and chasing turkeys. Could see turkeys all day long, and I tried setting up and I tried calling and probably making horrible calls. And then I would try just sneaking up on them, and I had no idea how hard it was going to be. Because I thought the same thing. How hard can it be to sneak up on and shoot a turkey? And I will tell you, the first year I tried turkey hunting, I did not kill a turkey. I had like everything that could go wrong, on top of me not being or having any clue on what I was doing. I remember when I finally got a turkey within range, I decided I was going to do it with my bow was what I
Mm.
wanted to do first because I had big aspirations. I was going to be a big bad archery hunter. Still like to hunt my bow and have killed a few things, but I had this Tom. He was coming around a tree. I'm sitting behind like a real big ponderosa pine, and this Tom was kind of coming, and I could see him. He was going to come past the tree, and then he was going to be right in front of me in range. So as soon as he got behind the tree, I drew my bow back, and I'm at full draw. And right as his head is about to poke out from behind that ponderosa, and my heart's pounding because I know I'm going to get my first kill ever. I mean, it's actually going to be the first animal I would ever have harvested. My bow literally exploded in my hands. My strings popped off
Yeah.
the cams. I don't even remember exactly what happened. I just remember it sounded like a 22 went off in my face and my bow fell apart in my hands. And I'm sitting there looking at these strings dangling and everything and my arrow on the ground. I'm like, looking at maybe I can still fix it before the turkey runs away. Quickly, I realized that's not the case. And that turkey, he didn't stick around too long. He left laughing his full head off at me. But I got my butt kicked by turkeys the first year. And so I can empathize with you and the fact that they're not just easy birds to kill. And we'll get into that too, just because I mean, everyone, when I talk about turkey hunting, especially some of my buddies at work, right, they give me a hard time. And in fact, I have a group text with some of my coworkers, and every time they see a turkey, they take a picture and send it in the group text and go, "Oh, here, look, Tom, we found one of those elusive turkeys."
Right.
Give me a hard time, but none of them want to go hunt turkeys with me. So they have no idea. But yeah, that
No,
was
it's
a really
funny
cool
that
story, man. Go
no, it's
ahead.
funny you say that because another part, um, working with the guys that I work with, you get the same things, right? You use a coffee cup at work that's got an NWTF logo on it or something, and everyone's like, "What is that about?" And you try to explain it, and they're like, "Oh, those things that run around the South Hill, just come to my front yard. You can have all you want." But there is a guy at work that understands. His name's Jeff. He actually about that same time in 2020 when I was starting to get into hunting and telling him about my boy being really interested and going through hunter safety, all that good, the weird 2020 hunter safety that was all virtual. I was talking to him and I said, it's crazy though. I can't believe my boy wants to hunt turkeys. And he said, "Oh man, you're either going to absolutely become addicted to it or you're going to absolutely hate it. But you will get so frustrated that there's a bird that, what does everyone say? A brain the size of a walnut, and it's going to outsmart you in just about every way." And so he's another reason why, he said that. And I said, I don't know. I don't know that I'm really going to get addicted to this. It's just hunting turkeys. I really want to go get a big elk. I really want to go get a big deer. And I know that first time and then trying to figure out what I did wrong, it's absolutely an obsession. My wife calls it all, an unhealthy obsession all the time. I've got paintings in the living room. I've got turkey fans everywhere. And yeah, it really takes, there's a select few, but like you said, a select few up here in the inland Northwest. But when you do find them, man, we're crazy about them.
Yeah. Well, and what's really cool too is, even though there's more pressure nowadays on turkeys in the area than there were, there's still, I mean, we are in the good old days of turkey hunting up here. And that's what's pretty fun is not everybody around here does it. I think a lot of our pressure is actually coming from out of state now. We get a lot of folks from back east that kind of discovered what kind of turkey hunting we have back here. Probably a little bit of John's fault and mine as well, because I have jumped on board with John in pretty much everything. And so, I'm okay with a lot of guys not enjoying it around here just because it just means more for me. And I mean, we get to have a heyday. There's so much opportunity. There's so many birds, and it's just an absolute blast of a good time. So, and it's for
Well,
me, I mean, it's the funnest thing to do with kids. I mean, I've not taken a kid turkey hunting that didn't have a blast, that didn't just
yeah,
absolutely love it and become a hunter besides just hunting turkeys, but they all want to do it again. It's a great time for youth. You can, use smaller bore shotguns these days that and make it an enjoyable experience from the shooting to the hunting. And then it's an easier animal to pack out. They get to clean it, they get to eat it. And I think it's just a great place to start. And out here,
absolutely.
it's still a good place to start for big game hunting too, just because I mean you're out in the same country as our big game species here. I mean, I tell people all the time, a lot of my better hunting spots for elk and deer I found turkey hunting. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. You go that a little bit further to go chase that gobble and you realize, oh, I've never even seen this draw before. And then you're back there, deer season, elk season, what have you. But then I'll do the same thing. I'll go, far thinking I'm going after deer and elk, and I'll be like, man, this is a heck of a turkey spot. I'll have to come back here in the spring. It's a beautiful thing.
yeah, some of my elk hunting buddies make fun of me because I'm like, look, man, they're looking for elk tracks. I'm like, look, dude, there's turkey crap on the ground over here.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, we're not here for turkeys. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
that's probably everybody that is a turkey hunter that also chases big game is a similar story. But all the old boys that I go with to go deer hunting, that's the same thing. They cannot wrap their head around why I would spend so much time, hike so many miles, do all these things to go after something that, in most people's minds, you're just gonna pull the breast out of it and that's all you're gonna do. You just wanna do all that just for two breasts and a fan to hang on the wall. And no, it's so much more than that. So much more than that.
Right. So, and speaking of which, too, I mean, we're talking about, and we'll finish this kind of why to turkey hunt. And we're talking about that kind of right now. So, sticking on that theme, I mean, that's one thing that always gets me, too, is people are like, oh, is there even any good meat on a turkey besides the breast? Which drives me nuts. Or aren't they just tough and stringy or dry or gamey? And I mean, I can't tell you how many turkeys I've eaten, wild turkeys, because I've gotten some from other folks that
Oh yeah.
came from out of state and couldn't take them all home. I've gotten all of my plenty of my own birds, my wife's birds. I mean, we've eaten a lot of turkey and I've not had a bad bite yet. Oh, we just made a bunch the other day before we flew out to Arkansas. We did a crock pot with the legs and the thighs and made
Mhm.
a soup that way, right? So I mean, I know for me, there's a million amazing ways to cook a turkey, the breast, the legs, the thighs, whole, whatever. I don't know. Have you ever found any wild turkey to be not palatable?
No, I mean, I think it takes a little bit of love, right? You kinda gotta know what you're doing a little bit, but no, I mean, we'll take just like you said, we'll take some of your most common recipes that you would typically use, ground chicken or something for or turkey chicken breast, and we just, you know, inject wild turkey right in there. I mean, my wife almost gets excited when people say, "Yeah, I'm sure he loves to hunt those, but man, they don't taste good. I hear they don't taste good." And she loves to coach people up on the fact, like, she would if I came home and told her that all I did was take the breasts and the fan, she'd probably leave me. She looks forward to the legs and the thighs and all that coming home because we'll stockpile it, and then to get through the winter months, we have soup Sundays or things like that, and she loves it. Absolutely loves to take your just run of the mill, like a chicken noodle soup recipe, but she'll braise those turkey legs and thighs for hours on the stove. We'll pull them all out, separate it all, and she'll save some of the meat for other meals, and then you make a big old pot of soup, and we eat that for a week, or share with people, especially with cold and flu season comes around. She loves it, and that's kind of people look forward to it now. The same people that would have told her, man, I'll never eat it. That's cool that he does it, and I'm glad that you like it, but I'll never eat that stuff. It tastes terrible. Um, and yeah, that's kind of my favorite thing is to just mess around with different recipes. And like you said, unless it was a time where I, threw it on the grill and tried to treat it like it was a big, turkey, or chicken breast that you get from the grocery store. and I overcook it, that's probably the only time, and it's totally my fault. Otherwise, it's some of the best meat I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just for the breast, I mean, kind of our two fallbacks, it just depends on the time of year. If it's winter time, we'll just throw a breast in the air fryer and they
Oh, yeah?
always come out really good. They're juicy, plenty tender,
Mhm.
plenty flavorful. In the summertime, when it's grilling season, I'll fire up my pellet smoker and smoke the breast. And I started with doing like trying to do brines and stuff like that. And eventually I just stopped, I do a little dry rub on it. And,
Uh,
if I'm heads up, I'll dry rub it like the day before. So it gets to set on there for a little bit. But a lot of times I forget and I'm lazy and I thaw it out the last minute and I pat it dry, do a dry rub on there and put it on the pellet smoker. And I just bring it up to, I don't know, probably about and I just do it
mhm.
on low. It takes me about 20 minutes to get it to 150. And then I just hit it with a quick sear. I get that burn pot really, hot. And then I just do that. And I try not to let it go over 155. And then I pull it off and let it rest. And man, that's turned into like the family favorite is just smoking those and then slice it. And then the leftovers are amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And then the thighs, like you said, soup. I like to braise it down and then shred it and make like, season it with taco seasoning and make like
Oh, yeah.
shredded turkey tacos. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So just to spell that rumor right now, if you're listening and you think turkeys might taste bad, they don't. They're freaking amazing. They taste really good.
Yeah. Most people's go-to is to fry them into, like, little turkey nuggets, and that's personally my least favorite way to do it. It goes well, it stretches it out, and the kids probably prefer it a little bit more that way, but, 9 times out of 10, if my wife uses it cooking and we didn't tell anybody, you wouldn't tell the difference.
No, no. And even one time it was pretty cool. I got a whole bunch of turkeys from a fella that had come from out of state. His travel plans got messed up and he couldn't take his turkeys home. And I think I
Mhm.
got about 6 turkeys from him. And, I don't know if he even remembers me, if he's listening, but he didn't, his shot placement, I don't know if it was like long distance, bad pattern or whatever, but the breasts were fairly tore up. So I didn't really feel like, trying to cook them and slice them. They were just kind of a mess. So I ran them all through the grinder and we made like Italian sausage and stuff out of it. And
Yeah.
that came out really good. So yeah, check that box. Turkeys are delicious. Now, as far as like people don't think, oh, they're just easy. They're all over my backyard, or I can step out my front door and shoot them. And like, yeah, folks, I can too. I live in the country. I can step out my back door, and I have stepped out my back door and shot turkeys like in the fall. But spring turkey, I mean, that in my opinion, is not what spring turkey's meant for. It's not meant to go out and shoot them out your back door.
Right.
But people don't. What I'm getting at is don't understand the sport behind it, right? People out here in the West, they just think like, I don't know, it's a dumb bird. It's everywhere. It makes a mess on my lawn. It eats, it messes up my fields. I know some farmers get frustrated by them. So,
Mhm.
when people come to you and say that turkey hunting's not sporty, how do you explain it to them to try to convince them that like, hey man, that's not the case. Like when you get out and chase a mountain turkey, it's completely different.
Yeah, no, I mean, it generally starts with a tale of just, name any hunt. I honestly, with the exception of, since being involved with the NWTF, I've helped with a few depredation type things or, property damage management type things where, it kind of hurts your heart. You just like kind of show up and thin a flock, real quick. And of course we harvest them, but ultimately, I tell them stories of just, the great times, taking somebody out for their first time, or the times where, just last spring, I've heard you tell, I've heard you tell a story about hunting with John a couple times, but I had a similar experience hunting with John last spring for the first time where, we were up at 3:30 in the morning and we didn't kill a bird until 4:30 in the afternoon. It certainly was no picnic. We didn't just walk up onto the mountain, take a few pictures with our brand name hunting gear, shoot a bird, and drive back, into town. It was an all day affair, and it was moving the truck from different spots, different hillsides, different areas, entirely miles apart from each other, and trying to get in on them. But once you get that bird that comes in that last 100 yards, there's no way to explain the feeling that you get. And so, just taking people that are doubtful is one of the best ways I think to overcome that stereotype. But yeah, people that live in the city, I live south in Spokane Valley. We've got them. I just posted on social media the other day. I had the kids on the back deck playing with a pot call, because there was a Jake out on the other side of the fence coming up and down the road, and, but trying to explain to my kids, like, yeah, no, we're not just going to run in the house and grab your 22. For one, we're in the city, but for two, there's no sport in it, and it's, I guess some people could say the exact same about, especially around here. We've had moose on our street, we've had deer on our street, but nobody ever says, you're a deer hunter. Oh, you should just come to, my backyard on the South Hill and shoot this mule deer that beds on my lawn every day. It just, turkeys just get such a bad rap for that kind of thing for some reason. But once you take them out, they can't deny it.
That was one of the best analogies. I don't know why I've never thought of that, but yeah, we get, I mean, there, and people don't realize too, there's depredation hunts for deer and elk too, right? I mean, they cause crop damage far worse than turkeys do. And yeah, I mean, drive around the South Hill, drive out through Medical Lake, man. You want to see some of the biggest mule deer of your life. Freaking Medical Lake has some monsters. And for folks listening, I mean, I'm not giving away any secrets. You can't hunt in Medical Lake. It's a town in Eastern Washington. But yeah, that's a pretty funny analogy, man. I've never really heard of that or even thought of it that way,
Yeah.
And I mean, people do say the same thing to me all the time. Oh, they're all over the South Hill. I'm like, yeah, just like the deer on the South Hill, just like the deer in town, they're accustomed to people. There would be no sport in shooting a deer in town, just like there'd be no sport in shooting a turkey in town.
Mhm.
I mean, that it's in the title, right? We're sportsmen. We want to go out and we want to do it the right way, at least how we feel the ethical right way to do it is, which for most turkey
Absolutely.
hunters is we want to get out there, play the game and call them in proper, and then to that too. I've said, like, I've gone out in the fall and flock of turkeys, right? We have a bunch of fall tags in the fall. I've gone
Mhm.
out and killed a couple of birds at a time in my yard. But at the same note, my wife shot her cow elk in our backyard this year. Like,
Yeah.
so, I mean, like, yeah, I've been joking with Tom Schneider stuck in the rut lately because he's giving me a hard time. If anybody that knows him knows he's a hardcore big game hunter, elk, bear, and wolf is what he really has the claim to fame to. And he's an incredible dude, incredible hunter, but he was giving me a hard time about it. And we were talking at the Bighorn show about it. He posted some turkeys in his yard where he lives and said, "Oh, come on, guys. Everyone that says turkey hunting is like elk hunting. Look how hard it is. They're right here in my yard." And I was like, "Oh, here's the grip and grin of a dead elk in my yard." So, um, and that's just fun banter. But yeah, I mean, turkeys are incredibly, especially, I mean, I think anywhere in the country, they're sporty, right? For different reasons. Back east with the Easterns, it's like a different game, right? They're tougher to call in. They're quieter. There's probably a lot more calling skill that goes into hunting those turkeys. Out here we have a lot of turkeys. Once you get one fired up, you can generally get them called in a little easier, than the Easterns back east. But here we're competing with the terrain and the weather. I mean, I'm excited. We have somebody coming out from South Carolina, and I really can't wait to show them an Idaho turkey hunt. It's going to be a good time. Yeah, man. Well, right on, dude. So, kind of anything else on like why turkey hunting is really a big deal to you? Why you love it so much?
Well, I mean, it's definitely an addiction because you're just, no matter how good you think you have it, no matter how much money you put into calls and things like that, you always learn something new every time you go out. It can be, hunting sometimes gets kind of lost in the kind of pay to play kind of thing. Or, if I just wear, and I'm not dogging on anybody, if I just wear Sitka gear and I buy this expensive thing, it's just going to happen, right? And it will humble you to know that it doesn't just work that way. The same as access, and we talk about them being in the city and things like that. It's never just an easy thing, but you just develop that much more of a passion for it. Like, imagine, you think about all kinds of things. If you really, really want it, you're going to do everything you can to get it. And as the world goes more and more to things just being on demand and easy to grab.
Hey, folks, just wanted to take a quick break from the show to talk about my most recent partnership with a good friend of mine, Jake Collier, and his company, One Outdoors. One Outdoors provides a trusted place to purchase outdoor experiences, gear, and services. They aim to positively impact people and the environment by donating 10% of all of their net profits to Restoration Outdoors, a nonprofit, which in turn invests in mental health and conservation. One Outdoors offers trips around the globe, whether you're interested in hunting in Africa or fishing in Alaska, Patagonia, and more. They can customize your outdoor experiences and beyond just hunting and fishing to whitewater rafting. You name it, folks. If you can dream it up in the outdoors, One Outdoors can help make that dream come true. And I'm proud to be partnering with them and consulting on trips and hunts. So, if you're interested in booking a trip of a lifetime with One Outdoors, you can reach me or reach out to me at Thomas at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. It's Thomas at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com, or you can contact me directly through Instagram, Facebook, you name it. But One Outdoors, folks, really excited to be working with these guys. So thank you very much for listening to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, and we'll get back to the show.
Yep. I got you. Yeah, I think too. I mean, turkeys are just American, right? And people always joke, oh, Thomas Jefferson or whatever was going to make them the American, and it's actually not like how it went down. They were not almost the American bird. It was actually like a sly comment, like they were talking about, well, why don't we just make the turkey? Like, haha, it was a sarcastic comment. But I always tell people, in all seriousness, not knocking on the bald eagle, even though they like to hang out in dumpsters like seagulls, but bald eagles are beautiful, cool critters. I like them. But turkeys got red, white, and blue heads. I mean, there's always that, right? And I mean,
and I get just as excited. If I look up in the sky and I see a bald eagle, it is the same thing as if I was driving through town or through the country and I see a pack of turkeys. My wife jokes about it all the time, how if we're going on a road trip, I prefer to sit in the passenger seat because I'm always looking every little field back by the tree line. I just want to see them. I don't know. It's a fun, exciting game. Like I said, I get just as excited, whether it was a bald eagle beautifully flying through the sky, which sometimes might seem rare for the area you're in. I feel the same way about turkey.
Yeah. Amen, man. Way. Now that we've established that turkey hunting is amazing and folks should go give it a try.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the NWTF. How did you decide to get involved with the NWTF, which is the National Wild Turkey Federation?
Yeah. So, I mean, initially it just started out with, I think my algorithm one day popped up, something on social media about the National Wild Turkey Federation and how, one of the member perks, I don't remember what it was. They were mailing out a pocket knife with the logo on it or a Bass Pro gift card, something like that. And I was like, you know what? If this is something, that has basically become my identity, I should probably find a way to give back to it in some way. So yeah, spring of 21, I hopped online. I, joined with my $35 a year, got my little pocket knife, got, the Bass Pro gift card, and just felt good to have that card, that member card in my wallet and just the sticker on my back window, and just felt, prideful to be a part of something. Then fast forward to, early last year in 2025, a text message blast came out to all NWTF members in the area and said, hey, my name is Caleb. I'm the new regional director for the area. I'm based out of Spokane, and I'm looking to get a chapter going. And I didn't know that, I didn't even know that was a part of the NWTF, was individual chapters and things like that. Just I think that I was also very amateur too. So I thought, man, that would be awesome. Go to a meeting once a month with a bunch of other crazy turkey hunters that, probably have access, probably have knowledge, probably have a lot of, great tips and tricks to share. And yeah, so showed up to my first meeting. Caleb got us all excited about all the things about NWTF, what we can do with a chapter here in town. The fact that it had been years since there was a chapter here in Spokane, but that he's local and he's, here to support us, and that we just, all we got to do is be a member, show up to the monthly meetings, and plan a banquet a year. And then that gets the ball rolling. That's how you get started. And yeah, so I was in a room with, I don't know, probably 15, 16 other guys, all chopping it up, telling your favorite turkey story, telling, who you are, where you came from. And, we're all just kind of talking back and forth. And it came down to it. And Caleb said, well, perfect. If you guys are on board, you guys want to start a chapter, we got to have an officer, or we got to have a president, and we got to have a treasurer. And the room went silent. Everybody just looked at each other. Everyone's like, this is all great. We all want to be a part of this. But I don't know what it takes to really step up and be and be an officer for it. And I think somebody pointed out the story that I told or something. And I said, well, I'm here to help. I'll do anything that's needed. And then all of a sudden you got, 3 or 4 guys. I second it, I third it, and bam, Eric's the president. I came home from that meeting that day and told my wife, she's like, oh, how'd it go? I said, I'm the president. She's like, I knew you were going to come out of that being something more than just showing up to talk turkeys with somebody. And then Zach Trumbull's my treasurer. He also stepped up, said, "Hey, I'm here to help with anything that we got to figure out." And we said, "Perfect." And the very next meeting, that was late January, early February. It was, "Hey, man, we got to do a banquet, and we want to do it before turkey season." So it was just a mad dash of trying to figure it out and drinking from the fire hose, as they say, and trying to figure out all things that are in WTF and putting together a banquet to raise funds so that we can do some of these great projects that we'll get into, and the ways that we give back to the hunting community and things like that. And yeah, so I mean, kind of voluntold, but man, it's been an awesome ride to be a part of this, to get the chapter going, and just all things with the state level. It's been a blast.
Hey, that's awesome, man. And, I think it's really important for folks to always be kind of reminded, we should remind ourselves as sportsmen that whether it's turkeys, mule deer, whitetail deer, elk, whatever you like to pursue, bears, I know there's a million organizations out there. Well, that's an
Mhm.
exaggeration. There's a lot of conservation groups out there for various species, or just there may be access groups, public land advocates, you name it, right? There's a lot of groups out there that are, and they're all good. They all do, for the most part, they're all good and they all do good work. But it's important to contribute as a sportsman, right? Because it's really, if we don't do it, it's not going to happen. If we don't stand up for our access, whether it's, public lands or just our ability to hunt, right? If we're, look at what's happening, obviously, in Washington, we could talk about that if you want. Hunting rights just getting stepped on left and right, season shut down, opportunity taken away. And it's conservation organizations like the NWTF that come in and fight those fights for hunters and anglers and, back down, or whether it's saving a species, right? Out west, everybody that's probably a big game hunter would know about the mule deer are struggling, right? Mule deer are struggling in most of the West right now. And that's why we have the Mule Deer Foundation, right? They're a good organization to get involved with and send some money over their way because we need to protect our mule deer if we want them to have them around. This is crunch time on the mule deer, on the turkey thing, NWTF, right? I mean, look at down south, back east, southeast United States, right? Their turkey populations are struggling. I was just in Arkansas for for 4 or 5 days. I didn't see a single turkey or hear a single gobble. And I don't know if that was just coincidence or where I was or what, but their turkey populations are struggling. And it's the NWTF and other organizations like Turkeys for Tomorrow that are stepping up and really putting money and boots on the ground and trying to figure out um, how to save these populations and keep turkeys around for generations.
Yeah, no, and you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I always tell people, whether it's the NWTF, if maybe you're not a crazy turkey crazed lunatic like I am, but you love elk, or you love whatever. Like, join the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Then go volunteer for their events. Go support their banquet. Become a member at the very least, because it doesn't matter whether you're saving turkeys or ducks or elk. It's all goes hand in hand. If you're supporting Delta waterfowl, chances are some of the projects they're doing are helping turkeys, or one and the same. Half my chapter are Delta waterfowl guys. Like, they're once you kind of get into it, you want to support everything else. You hate to see numbers low in chapters in the area, if you're helping one thing, you're helping everything else. And I guess that also goes to say, you've already got, maybe you don't have the time to volunteer. Just simply being a hunter, buying your tags puts money towards turkey habitat in our area. Buying your fishing license puts money towards, with the Pittman Robertson Act, all that money is helping one way or another. So just get outdoors, and shoot, get involved with something. You're going to help no matter what.
Absolutely. So, talking about issues that face species, and obviously we're here to talk about turkeys. In the Southeast, like I said, turkey populations are really struggling, right? And, that's a conversation for a whole nother episode. We're kind of targeting the Northwest and talking about your chapter here. I think a lot of people would say our turkey numbers are increasing rapidly, doing
Mhm.
really well. For our habitat, our weather, everything has just ended up being really conducive to turkeys, which, and I can let you talk more about that. But turkeys also, for folks that don't know, because I mean, I didn't know initially, right? Turkeys are not native, I mean, to the West Coast, let alone Idaho or Washington. They're not native to our area. They are brought in here. And fun fact about Idaho turkeys that I always like to share is that Idaho actually traded Colorado 6 mountain goats for our first flock of turkeys. And I believe they were released in the whitebird area. But yeah, so there's a lot of birds, man. So why don't you, if you could, just explain a little bit about turkeys in the Pacific Northwest, how they got here, if you want, and why, despite a booming population, like why is it important to have an NWTF chapter locally?
Yeah. No. I'll do my best. I'm certainly no biologist, and I'm trying to learn as much a piece at a time. But I know, at the state level, we've got our state chapter president. His name's Rich Mann. He's got a ton of great stories about all the trap and transfers that they did back in the day to introduce turkeys to all the different areas. Whether it was bringing just healthy flocks that could sustain, and then kind of the guessing game that they did back in the day when they came to introducing what areas were they going to thrive, what areas were they not going to thrive. If you check out the Facebook page for our Washington State NWTF, they've got a couple videos out right now. One of our fellow chapter presidents on the west side shared videos of the elusive eastern turkey running around, you know, in Washington State, stuff that you'd never be able to imagine. Everyone that, like you mentioned, coming from the southeast, that's what they're after. That's what everyone loves to chase down there. And up here, people don't get as excited, over different species. I think you mentioned it earlier. Tom told me, or John said it last year, just the same. We're in the back in the day age of the grand turkey story for the inland northwest, because it's not something that a lot of people are interested in. So what the NWTF is doing really, really well, and what I'm proud to be a part of, is just finding a way to reach as many people as we can, and putting a ton of effort towards things like, we also have a youth camp that's coming up. We set up a camp every year through the First Hunt Foundation and partner up with them, and invite parents to bring their kids out, or even adults that have never hunted before. We just like to target more towards the youth, because they're the future of our passion, the future of hunting. It's all types of ways that I had no idea when I was joining the NWTF that we would be involved. So from youth camp to veterans camps, even out of season things. It's not always just about hunting them, which you kind of alluded to earlier. One of the biggest misconceptions is, why do you volunteer for an organization to save them just to go hunt them? What's that about? Like, why are you raising all this money to build them some new homes just to then go back and shoot them out of their homes? And it's just, you know, so far in the NWTF, I've not met anybody that's doing it for their own personal gains, but just to spread the love, the more the merrier. And you mentioned some people, say, I thought about this earlier. I just jotted it down in my notes, but there's no competition when it comes to conservation. So you could be a part of Rocky Mountain Elk, and it's not like, oh, I already belong to this gang over here, I don't need to join yours too, or anything like that. Or even when it comes to turkeys themselves, Turkeys for Tomorrow is a great organization doing great things, and the more the merrier. Something else pops up tomorrow, we're going to support them too. I'd love to have you at our events, and kind of spread the love, and get some habitat, get some stuff to preserve it. But the NWTF just really gets involved in so many different ways, even more granular and more political. I was surprised at one of my first state meetings that we talked about how in Washington State there was several kind of firearms initiatives that were on a ballot, and found out that our team with the NWTF also helped to kind of squash some of those, because if it's bad for hunting in general, then the NWTF is around it, whether they're trying to limit your purchase of ammunition or limit what you can and can't buy when it comes to when it comes to firearms or getting involved with different initiatives where they're trying to ban hunting in certain areas. We're going to fight those things no matter what, because it's kind of that death by a thousand cuts mentality where, it's not, they're not going to turn it off tomorrow, but if we keep letting all these much smaller things go through, then it's eventually just going to happen. It's going to be gone. So that gave me a ton of pride to be a part of, not being a lifelong hunter, but coming from, a lot of interest around guns and firearms. A lot of my family was military and things like that. So you naturally just would hear, Uncle whoever talking about the Second Amendment or talking about, different gun grab initiatives. And then to join something that seems so silly to some people as the National Wild Turkey Federation or, you know, the Wild Turkey Club, some people say around here, it's really trying to help everybody to hold on to something that, it's our God given right. It's a part of being American and part of our freedom to be able to do some of these things. And yeah, whether you just like to go shoot with your buddies on the weekend or actually get down and dirty and go hunt some turkeys, the NWTF is trying to save all of that for you. It's a really good thing to be a part of.
Nice, man. Yeah, and I think that's a huge point that people overlook is these conservation organizations, everybody benefits from them, right? Like you use the Second
Absolutely.
Amendment as an example, and that's huge. I mean, a lot of conservation organizations will come out and support, or rather not support and lobby against some of these initiatives, legislation, and stuff like that that's out there that's looking to limit like you said, our Second Amendment, and they do it because I mean, one, it's an American thing to do is to protect and maintain our constitutional rights as they exist, but also they do it because that's part of hunting, right? It's an important part of hunting that we have access to the firearms and ammunition that we not just a matter of need, but choose to hunt with as part of our hunting heritage, right? We all have different tools that we like to use when we go hunting, and some people like to hunt with AR-15 platforms. Some people don't like to hunt with AR-15 platforms. Some people like to hunt with bows. Some people don't like to hunt with bows. Some people like compound bows. Some people like traditional bows. Some people like big bore shotguns. Some people like small bore shotguns. Some people like, I mean, go on and on and on, right? Point is we don't want to lose any of it because once we lose some of it, it's all on the line. So that was a really good example that you provided. And two, I mean, one, conservation organizations often and sportsmen in general, we're the ones that save the species to begin with, right? Like with mule deer. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
sportsmen that are footing the grand majority of the bill to save mule deer, to save turkeys in the South, to whatever species it is, right? You know, elk are thriving in many areas and being reintroduced in a lot of their, native range because of sportsman dollars and sportsman desire to see these species survive. And I think that's one thing people forget is that, yeah, we go out there to hunt and harvest these animals, but I don't think anybody loves wildlife and understands wildlife better than hunters. We just have a deeper appreciation for the animal. I love looking at deer just as much as I love
Absolutely.
shooting. Actually, I'd honestly think I like looking at deer more than I like shooting them, right? I like to shoot them and eat them.
Uh,
Yeah, I like looking at the antlers on my wall and remembering the hunt and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I love sitting back and watching deer. I like looking out my window when there's deer in my field. I mean, it just makes me happy. When I'm the same way, when I'm driving around, I'm almost getting in crashes because I'm like, oh, look, there's a deer. And I get excited over the ducks and the deer and the turkeys and I got that Merlin app so I can on my phone that shows me what songbirds are singing. Cause I
oh
mean, the
yeah,
more as you become a hunter, man, you just feel so much more connected and a desire to understand not just the species you pursue, but everything in the environment around you. And then the last thing too, so I mean, that before I move on, that would be a benefit to everybody. If you like watching wildlife, hunters are paying for that.
absolutely.
If you like accessing public lands, hunters are often the ones that are putting together organizations to lobby for public lands access, right? I mean, it was the hunting community that really shut down Mike Lee's initiative to
Mhm.
defederalize federal lands. That was a large part on the hunting community. I didn't see the World Wildlife Federation and all those anti-hunting quote unquote conservation organizations out there making big pushes like the hunting community was. So you benefit everybody.
Absolutely.
Um, and I'm kind of curious too, is just within the Northwest and what your chapter's doing, man. What kind of things do you guys got going on right now? I mean, what are you guys doing are you guys monitoring turkeys like the status of turkeys as a species? Are you keeping an eye are you guys helping like state biologists out? What issues, if any, are facing turkeys right now? I mean, what do you guys got going on in the chapter right now? And what are you guys
Yeah,
hoping to do in the future?
yeah. Yeah, so we work pretty closely. We have a biologist that's part of our NWTF staff. She works very closely with all the different entities to try and find opportunities where, all of our fundraising dollars, we want them, we want them out there. We don't want them just sitting in a bank account somewhere waiting for something to show up. So but whether it's the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we've got a great project that's actually happening this week. So working with Dean Nizer, the DFW, he's the regional biologist for our area. We've got a great project going on. It's down Whitman County, so not quite Spokane, but that's right because we're trying to get a big status going for us as far as Eastern Washington is concerned as a whole. But we've got an opportunity this week. We're going to be planting close to, I believe it's like 1,200 different trees in an area that otherwise is it's pretty open, but there's a good population of turkeys in the area. And so we're just trying to spread the habitat, give them more areas for ground nesting, more trees to eventually roost in, things of that nature. And it is actually private property, but it's going to open up a humpite reservation on this land, if not already, then in the future. So that's kind of what it is. What we're looking for is how do we do things in the world of habitat restoration or conservation as a whole? And then how do we get more access for hunters? How do we get more people into the sport? How do we get, because like you said earlier, every bit counts. It's the hunters that are spending the money to buy tags, to buy ammunition, to buy all these different things, to come to our banquets, to come to our fundraiser events. It's their money going directly back into their area, or at least back into the state areas as a whole, to build some habitat, to restore some areas, or just to create access as a whole. So that one's really exciting. A little south of town, it's just outside of the town Albion. I probably butchered that, Albion, but it's so that's a really exciting one, and that's a several-year project. So, it's not just 2 days, go throw some trees on the ground. It's going to be a continuing effort for a while to get that habitat really booming and to create that access. And the more we plant, the more we work in that area, the better off it's going to be. And then for those asking, you're from Spokane, what are you doing down in Whitman County? We've also got one very close to home to everybody, the Turnbull National Wildlife Refuge out near Cheney. We're in the very, very early stage of planning this out, so it's pretty amateur, the information I have on it. But what Turnbull has currently for hunters is a fall only humpite reservation setup, and it's a small chunk of land, but that's just kind of what the turkey population they had. That's kind of what they could sustain, was just a one season humpite reservation, to not go in and just eradicate the whole area. So what we're working on with them, in partnership with Rocky Mountain Elk, in collaboration with the Spokane County Noxious Weed and Control Board, and then U.S. Fish and Wildlife, is we're going to go out, clean up an area. There's some old homestead type equipment that's been out there for a long time that's kind of getting in the way of the habitat. There's just a lot of invasive species of plants that are causing problems. So that's kind of where the Noxious Weed Control Board comes in, and so what they're proposing and what we're helping them out with is, in both money and in manpower, we're going to go out and clear several different areas to work towards opening up a spring youth hunt out there, as well as the plan to get to a point where we can have, a youth hunt. But what I mean by that is the opening up to the youth season to come out and use this area in the spring while accompanied with an adult, all the good stuff with the state laws, but then to hopefully be able to restore a large enough area to where the population could rise to the point where we could open it up to a more general spring adult hunt, if you will. So it's going to start off with just going out, pulling some weeds, using some pesticides that be safe for the area, and just kind of clearing the area for that population to boom and grow, and then creating more access points outside of just the one area right now, like I said, that's just open to a hunt by reservation such situation. So these are kind of the two big ones on the docket for this year. As far as Washington as a whole, there's many other projects going on around the state. You could reach out to your local chapter, follow them on social media, see how you can get involved around the state. I'm not saying my focus is only to the eastern side of the state, but it's, that's where I spend the most of my time. So that's where I'm going to put the most of my efforts. So just trying to reestablish the NWTF in the area is my biggest goal. And we're off to a good start. We're 2 banquets in. We've helped out with some other projects here and there. This last fall, we partnered up with the Noxious Weed Control Board. We went out to an area, and it might sound juvenile, and it's not anybody's favorite type of work, but we were down on our hands and knees pulling these juvenile Scotch broom plants and pulling them and allowing the team to come in behind us and use intricate system of using a paintbrush to apply the pesticide onto those individual plants, and we're talking down to from the size of a pencil to the size of a quarter. So we're walking around crawling around on our hands and knees. I think I shared a picture of that for you before the podcast, but yeah, we were getting down and dirty in there, and then just continuing to work on that project. Because this Scotch broom, this noxious weed that people use for landscape, when it spreads out into like a turkey habitat or something, it's really difficult for the poult to maneuver around. It gets in the way of ground nesting and things of that nature. It kind of takes over the resources in the area, so there's less food source. There's less. It overall just complicates things, and that's when the team that I was working with there, they kind of shared with me because it's relatively close to town, but they would say, you wonder why you got turkeys in your neighborhood. It's, they like the stuff that's in your front yard because everything out here is just overrun with the byproduct of what you've got going on in your yard. So that was an interesting perspective that I had never thought of before, but it was eye opening to get involved and to see. So yeah, so I know it's a bit of a word vomit. As far as a chapter goes, we're starting to grow still. We're 2 banquets in, but we're certainly no professionals yet. We're still figuring everything out. But we're just a bunch of your average guys. We like to hunt turkeys in the spring. A lot of them like to hunt big game in the fall, but we all have our 9 to 5s, and it's just a volunteer opportunity. We've got Caleb in our area as a regional director, but outside of that, we're not paid to do any of this. It's purely just from the passion and hoping to continue this sport, this hobby, this passion, whatever, however you want to look at it. That's what's most important to us. And I'd be remiss to not say that my time that I've been a part of the NWTF has opened a ton of doors for me personally, just in the realm of fellowship, meeting other people that are interested in the same things. A little bit of the access of people that are, oh, hey, I don't hunt turkeys, but I can see you're crazy about it. So, those opportunities show up, or even just something as simple as getting to know a local call maker because they wanted to use their product to boost their business through our banquet. And you get to know a guy, and then he has something that he's prototyping, and he wants you to go check it out so he could get some feedback. Like, there's the opportunities are endless, and so whether you can only give a little bit of time, whatever it is, just getting involved. We'll probably go back to this a million times on this podcast, but getting involved is the best thing you could do to continue like you mentioned, our heritage of hunting. Or if you just like going out and looking at the birds, this is how we're going to get there. This is how we're going to keep them on the landscape. We're going to keep access available. You mentioned losing public land. It's another huge topic around NWTF meetings, and what initiatives are coming down the pipeline, and how are we going to, we're going to use some of that money from our banquet to fund, to fight it, to try to stop these types of things from happening. Because there's nothing worse than seeing a patch of public land go, or see loss of access to an area, whether you turkey hunted there, or you just hiked in there, or you went fishing or camping, whatever it is, all of these things are affected the same way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And two, to key in on something you said about the doors opening up and all the opportunity that NT being a part of NWTF has afforded you, I'll echo that sentiment in that when I got into conservation, it's the same kind of motivation, right? I just said, man, I feel like I want to be a part of the camaraderie that surrounds the sport. I want to contribute to the preservation of the sport, the preservation of these animals that I have really grown to love. And nothing about it was for me. But at the same time, I have gotten probably tenfold what I've put into it. And that's
Oh
just
yeah.
been, I mean, one, it's the people, right? I mean, these conservation organizations are volunteer organizations largely, which tends to attract really good giving people. And man, I have had some of the coolest things, coolest opportunities, right? To include, the time that I spent volunteering and being a leader within the BHA Armed Forces Initiative, man. It wasn't a paid for trip. I still had to fork up cash, but I got to go be a part of a caribou hunt in Alaska, right? And in those kinds of things, I'm not saying it. I mean, you go join a conservation organization, you're going to go on a hunting trip, but you just don't know what's going to happen, right? And you're very likely going to meet friends that are going to be more than happy to take you under their wing if you're learning, and doors and opportunities are going to open for you. And you just got to go out there and give a little bit of your time and sometimes some sweat equity. I know. Sounds like you guys are definitely putting in the sweat equity. The
Mhm.
Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, if you're listening to this and if you're not interested in turkeys, but you're interested in elk and somehow managed to stick around in this podcast this long, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, man, they do a wire pull up in 4th of July, or not 4th of July, up on the Hiawatha, so like up by Lookout Pass. They've been doing that for years running. I don't know if they're going to do it this year, but I went and did that and met some incredible folks, and it's a snowball effect, right? And then you feel good when you're done doing it. So I definitely second that. Go out and get involved. Any other big talking points that you wanted to cover from your chapter?
Yeah, I mean, so we just wrapped up our second banquet, so that'll be happening every single spring. If you're in the Spokane or surrounding area, it's a great time, and I kind of alluded to it earlier. I try to make it to where people think like, that's great. I'm glad you're happy about it, but I'm not a turkey hunter. I mean, we auctioned off some items that are for your everyday use. Whether you're into camping, fishing, hunting, hiking, it doesn't matter. Whether you're a big game hunter or an archery hunter, we keep those types of options open. A YouTube channel, Muley Freak, was an unlikely source, but they were a huge donor to our event. They sent a lot of great stuff. That didn't it was hard to pair it up with turkey things as far as putting it out there, but man, who wouldn't like to walk away with their game changer bino pack, with no matter what you're hunting. So those types of things are awesome. We try to keep it open to anybody. We try to make it. It's not just some hillbilly redneck get together. It was a nice dinner. It was a nice meal. It was a great time. Husbands brought their wives. People brought their kids. We had a Jake's game. We gave away a nice 22 rifle to a youth at the event that came out and played the game, and all the kids walked away with great prizes. So it's really meant to be for everybody. So and I know you got to wait a whole nother year for that, but there's definitely events you could check out. You check out our Facebook page, the NWTF Lilac City Long Beach chapter, and we're constantly keeping stuff going. So we're slated to help out with an event coming up here through Pacific Calls to do we will be helping out at the registration booth for the turkey rodeo. So that should be a great time. Just a group of guys that are interested in what you mentioned earlier, trying to bring that cultural passion of turkey hunting to our area. And it's a great time. Great food, great prizes, great just overall great time. Last year I got a little starstruck seeing some YouTube people that I'd watched over the years all of a sudden standing in front of me, and you realize, they're just everyday guys just like us. You follow them for years and watch them on YouTube and glorify them and wish you could hunt just like them, and then you talk to them and they put their pants on the same way you do every morning. It's really awesome, and and getting involved in these types of things. I'll go backwards a little bit, but you mentioned opportunities. I had interacted with John a couple times prior to my involvement, and John was always very receptive to his fans. Me being a fan, just reaching out to him. There was a time, I think it was not last year, was the year before. I actually, without spot burning, I'll say you and John had gone hunting in upstate Maine, and I drove by you guys actually driving into my turkey spot, and
Right.
just sent him a simple message later saying, "Hey man, I think I saw you today," and he shot me back a link to his channel saying, "Hey, be sure to watch the video. You're going into a great spot. Best of luck to you." And then to come around full circle to chat with him over the years, and then to say, "Hey, I'm a part of this," and he was more than willing to help out as much as he possibly can. And what a great guy to be. He's not here, so he can't stop us from talking good about him. He's such a great guy to just know, or to listen to, or to have an opportunity to chat with him. Whether it was before our banquet last year, I came over and met him and Don at their house. He was donating a few items that we had in one of our options. They're just such great people. You start to think that when people have a good, successful YouTube channel or something, they might be a sellout or something like that. But John's the exact opposite. And then last year, seeing what he did for Jagger. Jagger's one of my greatest friends, and it wouldn't have been for my involvement with the NWTF and getting to know John a little bit, or else, that's a chapter of my life I would have never got to know. That is Jagger, and how much he inspires turkey hunting for anybody, or it's just infectious to listen to him, to hear him tell you a story, or anything like that. But no, getting back into the NWTF, there's a lot of great events coming up around the state. And it doesn't matter if you're listening to this podcast in Idaho, Montana, Oregon, you name it, there's a chapter somewhere nearby, and they're going to have just as great events coming up. Jagger got his chapter up and running May 9th. They'll be having their banquet up in Libby, Montana, their first one. So everyone's super excited for that. And yeah, just do some simple research. You're going to find it. And I promise you, you're going to, it'd be hard to say, I promise, but I can almost guarantee you're going to meet somebody that's going to have an impact to your hunting life, to your everyday life in some way, because everyone's there as a volunteer. No one's getting paid to do it. They're not, we're not salesmen. We're not trying to get you to join, timeshare community. We just want you to come have a good time and give back to wildlife.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And just to the folks that you mentioned, Jagger, he's been on the podcast as well. An incredible dude. I think I could comfortably say nobody loves turkeys more than Jagger. That
Oh, no.
dude loves turkeys and turkey hunting. If he could do it all year round, I know he would. And I would, folks, if you haven't listened to that, I'd go back. I mean, there's not that many episodes of the show. I can't remember exactly which one it would be, but it was hunting with, spinal bifida. What's your excuse? I think was roughly the title. But go back
Mhm.
and give Jagger a listen, because that young man will inspire you to no end. And then, with John, you're 100% right. That dude can't help himself. He's just giving. He's giving of his time. He's giving of his money. He's giving of his knowledge. And he just likes to see other people be successful in and out of the turkey woods. I mean, for me, I've been ridiculously blessed to call him a friend for a while. And not only has he
Absolutely.
really helped me out in the turkey woods, but he's turned into a total life and spiritual mentor. And, he and Dawn have definitely blessed my wife and I's lives. But yeah, and he's not sponsored particularly by anybody. He is working with a company now, and I'll just let him talk about that next time he's on the show.
Mhm.
But he has not made a single penny off his YouTube channel. He's never tried to make any money off his YouTube channel. Whenever we've talked about monetizing, he kind of just says, I don't want to ruin a good thing. He didn't start it to make money. He didn't start it to get fame. He started it because he wanted to have videos of his family turkey hunting to remember, and thought that maybe some of the other family might like it. And then people started watching, and because it became educational and entertaining. So he
Yeah, I
is.
tried to buy. I was
Go
just gonna
ahead,
say,
man.
last year I tried to buy some merch off him, and he said, "I don't do it that way. I'll just let you know whenever I make hoodies or stickers or hats or something again. I'll just let you know." He's like, "But I wouldn't accept any payment for it." And the things that he donated, were invaluable last year. Custom custom handmade things that somebody could have, you could have put it on eBay and made a couple $100, but he knew we were up and getting ready to do our first banquet, and he handed some of these things over. I was blown away. He'd give you the shirt off his back if you needed it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, as we wrap it up, man, one thing I kind of been asking some of our turkey hunting folks, we haven't really done a lot of getting into the how-to tips or tactics in this turkey series yet. We've just shared a lot of cool stories, but what's your like best hot tip? Somebody going out turkey hunting with their kid this week, what would be a hot tip that you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still learning all around. I'd say if you're going solo, I think a lot of people would tell you, just sit longer than you think you need to sit. If you give yourself that extra time, the story I told you earlier of me and my boy getting up to go to lunch, and then that, if we would have sat 5 more minutes, that Jake would have walked out right where we thought he was going to walk out all day long. And it'd have been one of those beautiful picture perfect, YouTube turkey hunting shots that everyone looks for, instead of a run and gun through the trees to try to get him down. But outside of that, so definitely sit longer than you think you need to. If you're taking a kid, I made the mistake so many times of apologizing for not harvesting something. So if I was to give someone any advice that's trying to get their kids going, find a way to just make it fun, whatever it is. The more you pressure the situation, I miss the days when, some of my boys are older, and maybe they'll get back into hunting, but as life has happened, they're off doing their own thing, and I'm very proud of them. But I think sometimes I overshadowed the good moments by creating scenarios around why it didn't happen, creating excuses, apologizing for, oh man, if I'd have just got up a little bit earlier, we probably would have got something done. Find a way to make it fun. Just enjoy your time, whether it's letting them run the call because, they're just going to mess around. They'll have fun with it, or give them the binoculars and let them look around, get up and walk around in the middle of the morning and go look for other wildlife stuff, whatever it is. Mushrooms, one of my favorite mid-morning pastimes if I'm just not in a good area is looking for morel mushrooms. It's a great way to spend the morning. But yeah, I guess in a nutshell, just find a way to enjoy the time with the kid. I think the longevity of it will be much greater for you if you don't wrap all of the experience around whether you got something or you didn't get something, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. I think you're echoing very much a sentiment that I've heard other fathers say. I know that's actually very similar as to how John puts it. He talks about just make it fun. If you have to stop and just completely do something different, then so be it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think you're 100% on point. Well, yeah, man, thank you so much. I don't think I have any other questions for you, but I do think that we'll have you back on the show for sure one of these days, man. I would love to hear how some of your projects are going. Maybe we'll end up in the turkey woods together. You never know. I think that'd be a blast. I mean, John and I
Yeah, no,
always hunting with a lot of people, and we're always out and about. And I do remember the day that you actually drove by. I remember that spot, and I could even tell you the story of that hunt that day because we were we were hunting hard that day.
yeah,
If it's
yeah. I
it,
remember the video. The video came
yeah.
out shortly after, and it was memorable for sure.
Yeah, it was good, man. So, yeah, thank you for your time. And yeah, best of luck to you this spring. And have you been out with any youth season yet?
It has been so crazy between work and just the shutdown from the banquet. I have not been out yet. Anxiously awaiting next week to get out and for the general season. Our kids are playing sports everywhere right now. It's no, I keep you know, kicking myself for not being out there yet. But no, there's opportunities. There's things that come up all the time that a lot of my chapter members have been able to get out. I've been seeing tons of pictures. If not me, I'm just happy that somebody's out there. And we got a great text thread going. There's a lot of youth that took some of their first birds over this last weekend. What a better way to spend to Easter than surrounded by family, good food, and a text thread full of turkey photos and big grinning kids.
That's fantastic. It's definitely cool. I got my day off for the general opener this here next week, next Wednesday. But in the meantime, like I said, we'll be doing youth camp we're doing a first responders youth camp. It'd be John and I and a group of other folks through Protectors Peak Ministries. We'll be out in the St. Joe River area, which will be kind of fun because I have not hunted turkeys out there. So
That's
that'll be
awesome.
pretty cool. But we're going to hopefully the turkey hunting will go well and we'll get time to make it a cast and blast too. Do some fishing, should be really good on the river right now. So it'll
Yeah,
be
that'd be
good,
awesome.
man. Yeah, really
Yeah, no,
excited. So
yeah, I'm excited. I actually will. I'll get to spend my first time in the turkey woods with Jagger here in a couple weekends too. I'm gonna go pick him up and drag him out here for the turkey rodeo, and I know he's got some plans to be over this way with John. I might try to link up with them, and yeah, I mean, anytime I could ever come share a tree with you and just chat more and fellowship more. I mean, that's what this is all about. I hope to gain something from you and your friendship, and I hope to do the same for you.
sounds like a plan to me, man. We'll make it happen. All righty. Well, folks, again, Eric Harter of the National Wild Turkey Federation, specifically the Lilac City Longbeards chapter, right over next door to my hometown. I'm in Coeur d'Alene. He's in Spokane. So he's in Spokane, Washington, Eastern Washington. The good old days of turkey hunting, definitely here in the Pacific Northwest. I really appreciate what you and the NWTF are doing to not just protect what we have already, but to continue to find ways to improve access and further this sport into the future. You guys are doing excellent work. So keep it up. And I look forward to having you guys on the show. Everybody else that's listening out there, just a reminder, please like, subscribe, follow the show, leave comments, all those things. It really helps me out. I don't make anything off this. I've told you guys that before. You guys listen to the podcast know that we have picked up a few sponsors, but those cover the cost. I'm not making money. That just kind of helps it make it to where I'm not spending money to do the podcast anymore. So I can't make the joke that I'm paying to do it, but it does help when you guys, it helps my sponsors. It helps me when you like, subscribe, follow so that we can make the show sustainable. And just a reminder too, that we are going to the every other week. You guys will notice that we missed this last Friday. You guys are going to pick this up on the first Friday where we start every other Friday. And that is not because nothing bad happened or anything's going on. It's just busy season, right? We got turkey season starting. We've got fishing coming up. I've got a summer with retreats at Protectors Peak and fishing and, my life outside of having fun too, right? Work and family. So just to try to make it a little bit more sustainable for me, we're going to just go to that every other week for now. And maybe once things slow back down later in the year, we'll revisit that. But appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate your support. Eric, thank you. Folks, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Tom.
Before we get started, I want to thank our first partner, Response Ready Medical. Response Ready Medical, bringing our customers the best quality training and equipment for the worst case scenario. Response Ready Medical's vision is to be the leading provider of emergency preparedness solutions across the United States, empowering communities, organizations, and individuals to respond confidently and preserve life during critical moments. Offering same-day certification, all Response Ready Medical classes are instructed by nationally registered and state-licensed firefighter, paramedics, law enforcement officers, and hospital staff. Classes currently being offered by Response Ready Medical include CPR and AED, CPR, AED, and first aid, emergency trauma care, child and babysitting safety, CABS, backcountry medicine, and wilderness first aid. Your premium partner in emergency preparedness, Response Ready Medical. Thanks again, and if this resonates with you, I want to welcome you to the tribe and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. Hit subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors. And if you or someone you know has a great story about life or the wilderness, I want to share it. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or email me with all inquiries and questions at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. That's Thomas, THOMAS, at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. Until next time, get out there, get after it, and pursue freedom in the outdoors.